That'll get whatever. That'll fail whatever cures it. Look how big and swollen my finger is.
Welcome to Potluck number 690. It's a quiet evening here.
Hi, Joanne!
Yep, we hope that Joanne is watching. And you can see here that Ruthy has an infected finger.
So big and swollen.
Wait a minute. How did it get that big? What are you trying to do here?
I'm trying to keep the hot salt water that I'm soaking it in, hot. I'm trying to keep it hot without breaking the jar by cooking it on the wood stove. And the idea that the hot salt water will draw out the infection, that's not like there's even a hole in my finger, so I don't know how the infection is supposed to come out, but that's what people say do, so at least I can give it a good faith effort.
Yeah.
So, well, I tried something on that, just hopeless.
Yeah.
I tried, I was trying ignoring it. That works pretty well too, but I'm kicking it up a notch here.
Great.
Would you like a closer view?
Yeah.
How's the light?
I don't know. Ariel, can you see? Is it possible?
I think.
Yeah. Keep going closer.
Oh, really?
Closer. Oh my gosh, you're gonna gross them out. Okay. Well, thanks, Ruthy.
Yeah. There was no injury or anything really. It was just like I got a tiny little splinter of some unidentifiable object. I don't know if it was metal or wood or what, and then a tiny little splinter that got trash juices packed into it. Day after day.
Okay. Can everyone see me? Yes, I think so. Hello. Well, this next segment is about... Oh, so Ben Ross is usually with us. He unfortunately couldn't make it. He may show up later. So I'm kind of here holding down the Potluck live. Yeah. We'll see how I do. I'm a little nervous, but I practiced a bit with the ukulele. So, I do pedal people routes. And... among other things, and we see a lot of dog waste on pedal people routes, canine feces, and there is a sign at Child's Park, which is often where I might take a lunch break, and it says dog owners must remove and dispose of the canine feces, something like that, city ordinance, blah blah blah. Now this, I see that sign, it kind of gets started going in my head, and I start to, while I'm biking around, I'm often like singing songs, and I start singing songs for ridiculous things, like city ordinances. So I ended up writing a song about that city ordinance, so I'm going to play that for you now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about canine waste. Yay! Dog owners must remove and dispose of the canine feces. Dog owners must remove and dispose of the canine feces. Canine feces, come on, don't contaminate the groundwater. Canine feces, come on, don't let's entomb in a landfill. Canine feces, come on, why can't we just compost? Dog owners must remove and dispose of the canine feces. Dog owners must remove and dispose of the canine feces. So, I did some research and I found this helpful USDA pamphlet called Composting Dog Waste. Hold on, I'm going to show it to you more fully on the screen here, if I can bring this up. Okay, there we go. Now look at those dogs. They look very happy. And I think the reason they're so happy is because their feces is being composted.
Clearly, that makes me happy when I poop in a bucket.
Now these dogs, I believe, are in Alaska, and they probably are like Alaskan sled dogs. And that's where the bunch of research was done. So I'm going to talk a little bit about composting dog waste. Ruthy, could you grab my props over there? So they recommend you need a certain critical mass of waste, and if you have a lot of sled dogs, that's pretty easy. But if you don't, if you're just trying to compost your home, your dog's waste at home, you'll probably need to add some other materials to the pile. And so you want to compost dog waste separately from your vegetable compost. So the risk involved in composting dog waste has to do with roundworm, and there may be some other parasites as well. So the compost has to reach a certain temperature. It kind of depends how hot. If it gets really hot, that's a very short period of time. If it's a shorter period of time, or if it's a longer period of time, then I think they're saying like 145 degrees for a couple days. But check this helpful USDA pamphlet. And so you've got to get it hot enough, and then you need to add the right amount of carbon, and you need the right moisture level. So what they suggested was 2 parts dog waste and 1 part sawdust. I'm guessing that's maybe in weight. And then if you just want to wait until you have a good quantity for it to start composting, then you can just mix it with dry sawdust, but it's probably going to be pretty dry, so it won't actually compost. So you actually need to add water to make it the right moisture level, and then it will begin to heat up. And the way you can tell if it's heating up is without sticking your fingers in there.
Maybe that's why I have this infection.
Oh no! Is to use one of these really long composting thermometers. And if Ben Winter was here, he would definitely make a joke about this thermometer. But he's in the next room, so you can kind of see it's got this these different settings. How close can I get here? That show you, and in this case, for your vegetable compost, you often don't want it to get super, super hot because it'll kill the worms. But in this case, whoa, Ruthy, whoa! How warm? If I hold on to this tightly, will it warm up?
I can put it in my water.
Oh, this was just taken out of the canine compost, so I don't think I think you want it to be pretty hot. Yeah, here at the hot range here is 130 and above. These two things and water are kind of all that you need. In this pamphlet, they actually in the back have this whole thing about record keeping. So you put the date and the temperature, and you say the comments like loaded bin today, temperature already rising, or smells incredibly foul, must have done something wrong, because it actually shouldn't smell once you have it covered and once it gets going. It's it'll smell if you expose it, but if you keep it covered and it's hot, it'll quickly break down. So that's my little bit about composting dog waste. And did you have anything to add, Ruthy?
Yeah, Diana Riddle composts hers. She has a slightly fancier system. She invested in a green cone, which is just like a green plastic cone about this tall, and the bottom part is sort of buried in the ground, but it doesn't actually release into the groundwater. It's contained, but it cooks in there. It cooks at a high temperature, and it cooks down, and it cooks down. She's been using that same thing for, I think she told me, like 5 or 6 years for her dog. And I put my nose in it, didn't smell at all. So that's another system that if you want to put some money towards it instead of some thinking and having to add, like, you know, having to find like another like sawdust or something in water, then you can like just buy a product to solve your dog waste problems too.
Yeah.
Either way, that's much better than sending it to the landfill, especially if you have Federal People Service. It's much better to compensate yourself than to have us carry it around.
Yes, we would be happy to help you set up any sort of system.
Yes.
And I did. There are a bunch of those. There are ones that are like, they're called septic style too, which is not really composting, but it's like this tank that you put into the ground, and you add this special like stuff that like gets it going, I guess. But I think the composting seems like a better way to go.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Alex.
Oh yeah, and I got one more song. Jean Rowe was over here earlier, and we kind of wrote new lyrics to "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog." So let's see if I can do that. Are we okay?
Oh yeah, no, I just want to remove the mouse because the screen has gone blank and we can't tell.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep telling. Oh, and in the other room, if anyone wants to look on the computer in the kitchen, there's the chat. So people may be saying things that say like, "Oh, talk more about this kind of feces," or you know, something like that, probably. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, pooping all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, pooping all the time. You gotta compost it to be a real good friend of mine. They say we should bag it, but that was just a lie. They say to flush it, but that was also a lie. You gotta compost it to be a real good friend of mine. Everyone, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, pooping all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, pooping all the time. You gotta compost it to be a real good friend of mine. Alright, 2 songs about dog waste. What's next? Let's see. Oh, alright. This is very exciting. Gotta change. We'll switch to the wide view.
Oh.
What's going on, so that we can get the next thing ready. As you can see, there's not very many people here tonight at Potluck.
Ooh. What is that, Alex?
Okay. Well, they can't see it yet. What is that? Ruthy?
Oh, I'm coming.
It's green with brown spots.
Oh my. This reminds me of something I may have seen before or dreamed about. Hope to be inside. Should I open the head end or the tail end? Well, the tail end is always sweeter, so whether it's watermelon or whatever kind of fruit it is. So I'm going to start at the head end. That way it gets sweeter as I go along. Ooh. Anybody want to smell it?
Yeah.
Ariel? Scott. Got one eye.
It smells so good. Nice. How do you know when it's ripe?
Smells good. It drops from the ground. It drops onto the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I've cut its eyeball out. It reproduces by its eyeballs. Alright. Who wants a piece?
Me.
I'm going to carefully pull this peel back. How much will it peel? You want a piece, Aria?
Sure.
Come, take this piece. I will let you finish peeling it.
Thank you.
Alex? Ben?
Sure.
I know you gotta stop computing for this.
Yeah, I'll come.
Gotta come in here and get it. Come and get it. Can I get some ums and oohs and ahs?
Well, hello.
So good.
Hello.
Hello?
Could I come in here? I see that you're eating a pawpaw.
Papa.
Yes. I'm from the National Pawpaw Council.
Yes,
And,
welcome.
I want everyone to feel the power of the paw.
The paw. Nice segue from the previous segment.
Exactly. This whole night is about something to do with paws. The pawpaw, the mango of the north. What else can we say about it? The Michigan banana, the most amazing fruit. Deer don't like to eat it. There's very few pests, and it's delicious.
So good.
This puts the
How would
paw in paw.
How do we describe such a fruit? Custardy?
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Heavenly.
Definitely.
Very like tropical taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect something like this to grow a few feet from us.
If we could just reach out the window, we could get more. I got 2 in one bite. 2 seeds in one bite. And 1 thin sliver. That's nicely sliced, huh?
All right.
Thank you.
Are we gonna do the song everyone knows about pawpaws? It's probably the only thing people know about pawpaws, right?
They probably never would have even heard of pawpaws if it weren't for that song.
Probably. So we'll fade back. And I printed out the lyrics in case anyone wants to go on with me. Where, oh, where is little Susie? Where, oh, where is little Susie? Where, oh, where is little Susie? Way down yonder in the pawpaw patch. Come on, boys, let's go and find her. Come on, boys, let's go and find her. Come on, boys, let's go and find her. Way down yonder in the pawpaw patch. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Way down yonder in the pawpaw patch.
I don't know that one.
Ben, you missed out.
Where it's all gone?
I put it in my pocket.
Did I tell you that on Claire's tree, one of the trees has some pawpaws that are like
What?
huge?
Really?
I'm gonna go check it tomorrow, but I'll drop one off if she lets me.
This is exquisite, Alex.
It's really good.
I'm gonna have another piece. Who else
Right.
wants another slice?
Ruthy, I wonder if you would like to tell one of the stories from your week. I guess somehow if it can relate to paws of some kind, but you know, it doesn't have to.
Or some other way.
Yeah. I feel sorry for you all having to hear them again though, because I've already told like the top stories like 3 times. Especially poor Alex, he's already heard it again, and he always going to the other room so he doesn't have to hear one again.
That's right.
Well, okay, I'll just give the general overview of my past week, which is that I was traveling with a family from France, a dad and 3 kids, ages 8, 10, and 13. So they actually came here like 3, I guess it was 3 Mondays ago that they arrived from France. They contacted me through couch surfing, said they were coming to the United States for a month, their first trip to this country. And they contacted me through couch surfing because the dad, Mikhail, is very into building things with sticks, bamboo, wood, bikes, wheels, scavenged materials. He's built rafts and boats and bike trailers and tree houses, lives in a tree house in France. Anyway, so before they came here, we were emailing back and forth, and he said he had this dream of traveling through the United States with his children in a rickshaw. But people said, oh, you can't do that in the United States. The roads, it's just not bike friendly. Or rickshaw, it's not a rickshaw friendly country. And he asked me what I thought, and I said, I've seen some of the things you've built. Anything's possible. Anyway, so when he came here, and they in their stay here, they stayed here at 8 High Street for a few days, and then they went to Paige's house, where the bike lab is, and there it's like bike part heaven, bike part tool heaven. First they went into the woods. So on the airplane with them, they brought an adze, kind of like an axe, and then a saw, a Japanese folding full saw, and a draw knife, and a bunch of fishing netting, and fishing nets, and rope and twine. Oh, and a needle, a big needle like this big, and string. And by the end of the week, they had a rickshaw. A pedal assist rickshaw RV covered wagon that could convert into a bike trailer. And also had a rocket stove that they cooked when they needed food. They cooked it. So they started by going out into the woods and getting this black locust log and splitting it with the adze. And I guess they used some other pieces of wood to like hammer it down with. And then they shaved down the splits with a dry knife and made a bunch of poles, maybe 12 feet long. And then we went over to my friend Gabor's in Amherst, and they got some bamboo from him. And then they got bike parts at the bike lab, and they started tying things together. And so at the end of the week, they had, like, how can I describe it? So it's like the wheels in the back are like if you imagine 2 bikes doing a wheelie. But they took off like the fork and handlebars. And so like if the rickshaw's facing this way, the front part is like the handles. You know, like a rickshaw, you hold it and you walk with it, run with it, whatever. And then the back part where the wheels were, a child could be on each bike, sort of like recumbent style, like pedaling. And then in between were beds. So the beds were basically just net tied between the black locust poles. One bed, like, I don't know, thigh level, where the dad would sleep, and then the next level, more like chest level, it's 2 more beds, net, tied between the black locust posts, 1 for each kid, and then in the top level, tied up between where the bamboo was a 3rd little net where the youngest child stayed. So we traveled on this thing for...
Ruthy, I got a picture up.
Oh, you got a
so
picture?
People can visualize
Oh,
what
nice.
you're
Nice.
talking about.
Yeah, so we traveled for a week. I wasn't with them the whole time, but most of the time I was able to join them. And so wherever we would get, they would just stop the rickshaw and just park it wherever and just sleep in it. Set out the rocket stove and cook. I took a tent. I took my bicycle and a tent. So I would just camp next to near wherever they parked. There were many different incarnations of how we traveled. Like, since we had an extra bike, like the adults, Mikhail and I would trade off hauling it or biking alongside, or the kids would sometimes run alongside. the last day we tied it to my bike because we were getting kind of tired. It's kind of tiresome, even though it's very well balanced. It's kind of tiresome to stabilize the thing for multiple miles as you're running or walking. Anyway, yeah.
With the pictures up, do you want to say anything specific about either of these?
Well, so can you go back to which picture is that?
That's the
Okay. Okay, so the picture on the right, we see the family eating breakfast. So that was near Canton, Connecticut. We camped out on the edge of the city park, and it was dark when we got there. But when the sun rose, people started arriving in the park. First, this man and woman rode up on bicycles, and I overheard them say something like, "Oh yeah, this is our meeting spot." And so I walked over and said, "Oh, are you expecting more people? Or what are you all doing?" And they said, "Oh yeah, today is National Bike to School Day, so we're expecting about 50 kids to come here, and the police will be coming to escort them." And I was like, "Oh, police," and we're camped in the park. But I think anyway, so then yeah, people started coming, parents were coming with their cars with bikes in the back, and kids started riding up the road and pulling over and gathering in the basketball court. It was very curious to me that, and 2 police cars came too. It was very curious to me that during this whole 20-30 minute gathering period of 50 people or so, only one kid biked over to where we were and said, "Hey, what are you all doing?" And I don't know why that, if that's I don't know why that was. I mean, because this isn't the kind of thing you've probably ever seen before.
Americans learn to fear.
The fear thing, I witnessed a few situations of that fear thing. Yeah. There's another time where, this is when we were parting ways and the family was continuing on the bus to New York City, and I was pedaling the rickshaw. I was going to pedal the rickshaw back. I knew it would take me more than one day. And so a woman said something like, "Oh, where are you going to spend the night? You going to stay in a motel or something?" And I said, "Oh, no, well, I got the rickshaw thing. I have a tent. I'll just stay wherever I end up." And she was like, "Yeah, but not alone, traveling alone as a woman." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And she said, "Well, that's just not safe. You should go to a motel or something." Anyway, well, there's another thing about this is not. I was just thinking about the safety thing, and when we went swimming in the river through this raging current, and so another place that we stopped along the Farmington River for an afternoon swim and lunch, dinner, whatever. The locals said the water was about 2 feet higher than normal, and there was a good current there. When we walked over to the edge of the river, and I stepped in it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get washed downstream." But then Mikael, he jumped in further up with a rope. Well, he tied one end of a long rope to a tree, maybe a 60-foot long rope. He tied one end to a tree, and then he walked upstream a little bit and jumped in with the end of the rope and paddled really hard. And as he got washed downstream, and then he made it to the other side, and then he walked back up, so he's perpendicular to the river, and he tied it to another tree. So we had this rope going across the river, and I was like, "There's gonna be some sort of ferry situation that's gonna happen here." And then so then he swam back, and I was like, "What do you have in mind?" And he said, "Oh, still thinking." And so he pulls out more ropes and a carabiner, and in the end, and then I was like, "Oh, maybe." So he was like, "Yeah, one of us should go back over there so we can ferry the kids back and forth." So anyway, so then I jumped in the river and swam to the other side. And in the end, we had he had the carabiner that slid back and forth across the rope. With like me, I had one end of one rope. He had another end of another rope, and then the kids would just take turns hanging on to a rope tied to the carabiner. So like they'd be on one edge, and they'd just grab hold of the rope, and then I would like pull them over to the other side through this raging current. They're just like holding on, and there was a woman, a local woman who was sitting on the bench watching it all, and she was just like, even before, I don't know at what point she said, "This is a really dangerous river," and I was thinking about pictures I've seen of Miguel and his kids and things that the kids have done, like the picture of the 8-year-old on top of a 75-foot tall pole that he lashed to a tree.
I wish we had some pictures of all that.
I do have some pictures.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll show.
Wait, so you had heard of him before he came to the States?
No, I never heard of him, but I saw some pictures that he posted on his couch surfing profile.
Oh.
And then when he was at Pages, he showed us some videos.
But you saw his profile before he came here, right?
Yeah.
Had he contacted you and like, oh, I need the couch surf?
He contacted me and said that they were coming to the United States for a month, but he didn't really say hardly anything on his profile except for he posted these pictures.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like coincidence that he came here at all, right?
Well, because he read my profile about pedal people
and there was some
bike, and he saw like there was like bike, creative bike interests. So
we're gonna switch to one last song on the show.
Okay.
And, so you all probably, this is another dog song, and you all probably know the tune to this. So if you want to sing along,
is it?
You're welcome to.
Thriller?
It's Ben's favorite. It's Thriller. No.
From a dog stance.
From a dog stance. From a dog stance, the world's a bowl of food, and no dog is in need. From a dog stance, no dog is ever rude. There's just one hungry mouth to feed. From a dog stance, there is harmony, and it rests upon your plate. It's the drool of hope, it's the look of guilt, that's the stance of every dog. From a dog stance, we all have enough, so why not give dogs more? From a dog stance, dogs cannot comprehend what all these cats are for. From a dog stance, we are waitresses marching to the kitchen now, bringing bowls of food, make that people food. That's the stance of every dog. Dogs are watching us, dogs are watching us, dogs are watching us from a dog stance. That's how that car goes. From a dog stance, the world's a bowl of food,
This is pretty good.
and no dog is in need. There are no cats, no postmen, bats, or fleas, just one hungry mouth to feed. From a dog stance, there is harmony, and it rests upon your plate. It's the drool of hope, it's the look of guilt, that's the stance of every dog. Dogs are watching us, dogs are watching us, dogs are watching us. How's that last line go?
From a dog stance.
From a dog stance.
I mean, and I hear it in my head, but
Yeah, it's hard to sing. Anyway, that's written by Jay Mankita, the parody, that is, the lyrics, and who lives here locally. So, thank you for joining us for potluck number 690.
I thought it was way in the future.
Yeah. With myself, Alex, Ariel, Ben Winter,
Hi.
and Ruthy Weathering.
Sorry, man.
It's a good pawpaw. That one fell?
There's another one for you. They all fell.
Like they just fell off?
Alex picked them up off the ground yesterday.